Good afternoon, ladies and gents. How are we all doing? All good? Brilliant. So, what I'm going to talk to you guys about is something I did back in 2009. Now, you can see behind me a tree house that I built out of recycled natural materials. But there's quite a big story that comes into behind it. And why would you just go, right, I'm going to leave London, I'm going to live in the woods, and I'm going to, be self-sufficient and do all these things that aren't something we do in normal life. You could just say, yeah, I'm losing control. I don't want to be in London more, I'm going to go. But the thing is, what was happening is that whilst living in London, I was finding that I was having to pay lots of things for the rent, bills, all these things. And I was like, well, why do I have to, pay for all these things? Why can't I be self-sufficient and create my own existence? And shortly, so around about sort of 2009, obviously recession came in. That was something that was way out of my control, and I think most of us. So what I found, I sort of was put in this position where I couldn't afford to actually pay for all these different things. So I said, right, well, why not take stock and move back to the countryside and create this sort of simple existence. Now, for one reason, for myself, I was like, I want to be happy. I don't want to have this kind of miserable life where I'm desperately trying to pay for these things that my bank account's slowly going straight down into sort of the depths, and I'm like, this isn't good, I've got to do something. So this is where this whole sort of thing of I just want to be happy in my life, and thankfully Susanna touched on that earlier on, so I don't need to delve too much into it. So one of the reasons for that, very nice little picture of me, age 3, is I want all of you guys just to think about a sort of memory when you were a kid, something that really sort of stands out. Now, have you all got that in mind? Now, what the process behind doing this is I always wondered when I was a kid, I was like, I want to have a tree house when I'm older. I want to have a big tree house I can live in. I did have a tree house. It was quite small, and it was just a plank and a tree, really. But to me, that was a tree house. I didn't think 25 years later I'd build something that was going to be enormous, I could live in, like an actual tree house I could live in. And I think for me, kind of the reason that the tree house idea came about is because I was looking back to the past, I guess, to go, well, that was a childhood memory for me that evoked a lot of happiness and was something that was a kind of direct link to sort of getting back to that. Now, something kind of led on before doing this, which made me kind of really question what I was doing with my work life and personal life in London. I'm from Sussex originally. I've always done a lot of stuff, hunting, fishing, shooting, and sort of outdoor living. I got asked to be a survival expert for a program called Shipwrecked. Some of you may have remembered it was very good sort of hangover TV on Sunday mornings. It was, whilst it was an incredible experience, Channel 4 will turn around to you and say, here you go, here's a desert island, you can go and do what you like with it for 3 months. You're not going to turn that down, you're going to go, yeah, okay, and you're going to pay for my flights too. Whilst doing that, it's not all glitz and glamour. One thing is here, and this is me, I think, about a month in, so we were on this particular survival island where I had to teach some, as was mentioned, hideous creatures. They're not all bad, but they're kind of not your ideal people. Some quite special individuals. So you really have to work your balls off to get them to sort of do stuff. And they all want us to go, oh no, I just want to go on the beach and do nothing. And it's like, yeah, we can do it. The thing is, other people then suffer. So me, trying to teach all of them to do this, guys, we have to do this, we have to do this, we don't have protein, we have to kill chickens, we have to do all these different things, and some of them just don't get it, and they go, no, it's at the beach. Others really do, and the thing is, you really see people thrive and really kind of take the initiative themselves to actually do things, and seeing people who previously never lit a fire in their life make one from scratch, doing like a bow drill, that's impressive. And for me, Shipwrecked kind of taught me 2 things. Firstly, you're going to go on a reality TV program, quite essentially, nobody really gives a shit. I'll link this back in later on, don't worry. Secondly, and more importantly what it taught me, is passion. I realised I had a passion for actually teaching people these skills, and you know, seeing them kind of take it upon themselves to do these things and get somewhere. So that sort of, whilst I was in London, I was working doing sort of freelance set design and chefing, and obviously with the recession, every party planner in the country starts to can various things like production, food. Those are the first things to go. So the 6 different companies I was freelancing for didn't really have the work between them. So I started thinking, well, what am I going to do? I need to get out of the spa, I need to change my life. Just come back from 3 months on a desert island, quite enjoying it. But going back to normal life after that was quite weird. I mean, if you imagine you're on an island the size of, I'd say probably a couple of football fields, you know, leaving, I hadn't seen a car for 3 months. So, you know, you get back to London, suddenly you start thinking of ways to get out of it again. So, so I started drawing up some plans for this treehouse. Now, first things first that I learned when thinking about, you know, if you want to go live in the woods anywhere in the UK, it's difficult. And the reason for that is planning permission, which brings me on to my next point, which is lawlessness. Now, everyone has to deal with planners in life if they're doing any kind of building work. Don't be afraid to bend the rules. If you want to live in the woods, in the middle of the countryside, bear in mind this whole experiment, because it was an experiment, took place over, I'd say, probably about 20 miles from where we're sat right now. So bending those rules slightly, I just said, well, I found out that I would need planning permission. It would take up to a year to get put through. It would cost X amount of money. There was a tree preservation order on the wood that I wanted to do it in, so I had to find somewhere else. So I eventually found somewhere else, spoke to the people who owned the land, they went, sounds interesting, I just want to see if he makes it through. You know, this kind of thing going, well, I'll do it, but I just won't tell anyone where it is. Fine. And on that subject of lawlessness, 3 things that is absolutely fine to have in your rucksack in the country. If you're in London, you'll probably get arrested. Cash, very important. We're always, all of us, you know, money is a very important thing to us. I mean, it's one of the things that if you don't have it, you know, it's really hard. You worry about how you're going to pay this bill, that bill. But also, it's something I think we all need a little bit of it. Even if you're going to be a moneyless person and go, oh, I'm just going to get rid of money from my life altogether, everyone always needs a little bit. But you do find, you know, there's certain levels of cash. When you find yourself scraping up badgers off the side of the road, eating roadkill, skinning it, so on and so forth, you know, you pretty much hit that level there. So you know, don't be ashamed of that thing. A badger's very good. It tastes like cross between beef and venison. But risk is an inherent thing in anything we do. And part of life is to take risks. If you always sit there and go, I'm not going to take a risk, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that, because it might be dangerous, then, you know, you're never really going to sort of do anything amazing. And you know, even if it is trying to do a self-timer photo of you building a treehouse and almost falling out the window. Yeah, bear in mind, sort of, to be honest, I was doing it on my own. Actually, a big risk of being in the middle of nowhere in the woods. You know, doing this, it's kind of a risky thing. And I remember my mother, when I told her I was doing this, she turned around and she goes, isn't it going to be a bit dangerous? What if something happens to you? I was like, but you know, you have to take risks. Next thing, back yourself. And the most important reason for that is that if you don't think you can do something, you might get people turning around and saying, oh, you can't do that, kind of. Sometimes that's good, that spurs you on, but you have to back yourself. You have to be like, no, I'm going to do this, or at least I'm going to give it my best shot. And the reason for that is nobody really gives a shit. So, back yourself, always. So the next thing, begin. Now, this is one of the hardest things to do, I think, for a lot of people. I mean, I know friends who start businesses, they've gone, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to start this business at this point, and then a year later, they still haven't done it. It's like, just get going on it, because once you get going on it, the rest flows kind of naturally, and it's sort of one of these things you don't have to worry about controlling too much, it just sort of happens. So what does it take to kind of live a self-sufficient lifestyle in the woods? First of all, you need to obviously build a treehouse. So I spent about £300 of all the money I had left in my account, built this treehouse, and like I said, it was meant to sort of blend into the wood. Other things you need a veg patch, somewhere to have your food, you know, to supply the kitchen with. So built a veg patch, This one here is my sink unit, so somewhere to kind of do washing up, so on and so forth. This has been, I think, killing an eel. I don't know if any of you tried to do that. It's virtually impossible. But, you know, this is the kind of food I was eating every day. Ablutions as well. You know, you need to be clean. At the moment you're in a wood on your own, it doesn't matter if you smell. Still, it's important for, I think, self-being to be clean. So I had a water bucket shower. This one always makes me laugh. I never expected anyone to film my toilet, but there was a bit of media involvement later on while I was doing the treehouse thing, and I just thought it was hilarious that there was this dude filming my loo. One of the most important things I had was this, which is my wood-burning stove, which I made from recycled like oil drum, cut a few bits out of it, and then put it together. And this was, you know, a central heating unit, but also somewhere that would, you know, I could cook on if it was raining. So the thing is, what I've done is I've created this sort of bubble, if you like. And these were all the things that were kind of my control points. So I could control where I was living, I could have all my bits that I needed to sort of have this nice life. Then, life becomes quite simple. These are the only three things you have to worry about. Hunting, gathering, fire, that's it. 6 hours a day's work, so not a huge amount. But the thing is, this is where I found things went beyond my control. Hunting, you can't guarantee you're going to shoot something. You can't guarantee you're going to see something. You might even miss it. So, you know, there you go. Fishing, you're not always going to catch a fish. You know, this is one of the 3 best fish I think I caught in 6 months. Maybe because there aren't many trout in the river, but you know, this was you know, an amazing meal for me. Things I kind of could control were my veg patch I think. So I was getting about sort of, I'd say, 50% things from vegetables, so potatoes, things that are quite hard to find in the wild, and then the rest of it was forage. And then obviously all my meat I had to shoot or catch it from the river. So the vegetable patch gradually grew into its own and, you know, supplied me really well with food. But then other things like firewood, you know, when you're out in nature 24/7, you really do have to deal with the weather. The weather is something that, you know, it's more important. This is probably why in England it's one of our favourite talking points. Because the thing is, I have to collect wood way in advance, because if not, it gets wet, and then it rains for 3 days, I can't cook, and I can't heat my treehouse. So these elements of control sort of came into what I was doing, and at the time I didn't really think about it too much. I'm not a great thinker, as you can probably tell. But yeah, I didn't really think. I just thought, well, no, I like to be flexible. If you do have those issues, be flexible. You know, don't feel that you have to control everything. So on good days, you know, I could sit in the treehouse and I could cook a nice meal on my rabbit skin rug. Like to use every bit of the animal. And yeah, I had things that would help me with my life. So I had tools which could allow me to shape the environment I was in and have an element of control. But then, you know, when the life sort of came together, and sort of, as I was getting towards into autumn, I mean, you know, the life that I'd sort of constructed really kind of felt like it was coming together, and you know, was really doing quite well. And I thought, well, why can't I strive to sustain this and be like this more in the future? I mean, you know, you start getting quite good with your shooting, you get a lot of rabbits, you know, you're never going to run out of them. Other things beyond your control, this was never planned to be a book. I had no intention of writing a book about this at all. But, you know, things beyond my control came around, and the Treehouse Diaries ended up being a book. It's not a bestseller, but it is a book. Other things, you know, the media get involved. And by this point, I was in my little bubble, doing my hunting, doing my gathering, light my fires, and then people start going, oh, can we come down and film you doing this? Or can we get, and you know, end up on the front cover of Home magazine. I was like, this is ridiculous. I wasn't even at home, I was in the treehouse still. Like, a mate of mine came down and goes, I was like, alright. So, you know, these things, you know, beyond your control. So what happens next? You live in a treehouse for 6 months. What do you do next? You go, okay, well, I've done this. I can't really go back to London because A, I haven't really been working for the last 6 months. So, so I haven't really money to go and get a deposit for a thing on a flat. So you kind of continue doing what you've been doing. So I thought, well, what should I do next? Build another treehouse, but bigger. So back in 2011, I started something called Hunt to Gather Cook, which specialises in foraging and butchery. And what we do there is very much what I did in the treehouse. So it's teaching people all these elements that I had to do. So cooking, fire, butchery, everything like that. You know, there's a team of chefs now that do everything for everyone. Foraging, up the game in the foraging state. So I've got a truffle dog now who's trained to find truffles. So you know, a bit more decadent. Nice, tasty little dishes like this. But then you can afford to go a bit crazy. You know, why not build a water wheel and spit roast an entire deer? Just for fun. So you know, these kind of things, you know, life for me is amazing. I'm happy all the time with my job and everything else. And the thing is, like, because, you know, as has been sort of mentioned before, is that, you know, we don't live in the past, and we don't really have any control over what's going to happen in the future. We live in the present, you know, we're like here, we're now, like right now. So earlier on when I said to you guys, think about that kind of childhood memory, you know, that sort of evokes that thought of happiness. And this is the thing, because, you know, when we look to the past and the future, there's one thing that we all want to have, that we all strive as human beings to find. And that's really simple. That. Thank you very much.